Hi, this is Kyle from Ancora Software. I wanted to provide an overview of our QuickBooks integration to give you familiarity with how AncoraDocs can hand data directly into QuickBooks, but can also pull data out of QuickBooks in an effort to process invoices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just briefly an instance of QuickBooks running here, and you can see that ADEX and Holman here both have zeros in the columns. The other one I'll be using is WB Mason. So you can see currently that there's zero value in each of these. I'm going to minimize QuickBooks. I'm going to go into AncoraDocs. What I've done is set up a specific instance for a client that we're currently working with in an effort to give you an example of how this would work. Now obviously the data can be adjusted appropriately for each individual client that we're working with. The concept holds true with AncoraDocs in that we need to be able to capture some images. Our OCR engine is going to run in the background unattended. It's going to capture that information, and then really the only step that a individual needs to participate in is the verification step. So during the verification step, the system is going to grab the information from QuickBooks. So you can see that this is the first time I've logged into the QuickBooks integration. So the system is loading all the appropriate information from QuickBooks. This obviously only is going to happen one time when you first log in. So as in most Ancora processes, the system has gone out and determined the best match for the data consistent with what I was asking for. So in the case of a vendor, it looked up the vendor and then did a table reference to the QuickBooks database and determined that this was the appropriate match. If this wasn't the appropriate match, or there was multiple vendors associated with this, as I toggle through this list, you can see that my list becomes larger. So the idea being is that I could isolate a specific vendor and pick the associated vendor that needs to be referenced. All the additional information has been gathered, like the invoice number. I can tab through here to the purchase order. I can look at the date, the corresponding ship date, the terms. I could choose the appropriate terms for this individual vendor. And then things like a memo could be collected. Now when it comes to the line item details, what we're going to look at here is the system is going to ask for us to assign an account to this. Now when I assign an account to this, the specific value for that shows up here. Now if I were to come down and assign an item for this, what will end up happening is you'll see that the system then asks me for the quantity, the cost, and the amount. Now obviously those were gathered automatically, so there's nothing additional I need to do. But the system allows us to associate a general ledger code at the high level, at the account level, or it allows us to assign that at the item level. So in this case I just gave you a couple different options here. I'm going to pick these moving along here. I'm going to hit the function F4 key. And what the system will do is it'll take us to the next area where the system needs our assistance. Once again, I'm just isolating a specific area. I'm going to assign a different account here. I'm going to move on to the final area, which is the total. Everything has been balanced. Everything looks appropriate. I'm going to move on to the next document. Once again, we picked up the vendor name along with all the pertinent information. When the system needs our help, obviously it'll prompt us, letting us know we can't move further on. That has a lot of customization in what is required is not required. So I'm going to, everything here doesn't equal up. So I'm looking at this invoice, and what I'm seeing is that there's $119, but it looks like there's an item that's missing. So in this case, what I would want to do is I would want to add an additional row here, and I would want to put the description in this. Oops, excuse me. I'd want to put the description in this as freight. I'd want to assign this to, a particular account. Then you can see that the system automatically picked up the $42, allowing us to finalize that invoice and move on to the last one. Once again, all the pertinent information gets picked up. This should be nothing new at this point. If a specific term is itemized or detailed on an invoice and it doesn't match with our list, we'll be prompted to choose the appropriate match. And then obviously I'm going to go through the same exercise that I had went through before. In this case, just choosing the particular item. I'm going to choose a couple different classes in an effort to allow you to see when we get over to the QuickBooks side what that inevitably looks like. Once I've saved changes, you're going to see another dialog box pop up. That dialog box is now handing off the data that we just collected to the instance of QuickBooks. So when we go back into our QuickBooks site here, what you're going to see is now the 8X has $283 associated with it. If we isolate that transaction, what you'll end up seeing is that under expenses, we had the individual items associated with the different accounts that we associated, and then obviously the description of those. If we go into Holman, once again, same concept. All the information has now been collected and could be displayed. So that's a really quick overview of our connector with QuickBooks. It's something that we can do with other applications as well. Just in this case, I wanted to highlight the QuickBooks. I appreciate your time. Any other questions I can answer for you, I'm available. Again, this is Kyle from Ancora. Thank you so much for your time.